Good day, students. Today's topic is general anesthesia. So, anesthesia, when we talk about, it has got different types. So, you have already talked about local anesthesia. So, it is loss of the sensory perception over a small area of body, locally. Then regional anesthesia. It's the loss of sensation over a specific region of the body, for example, say lower trunk. Then general anesthesia, which is the topic for today, it is the loss of sensory perception of entire body, and it is accompanied by the unconsciousness, state of unconsciousness. So our learning objectives for this class are: you should be able to classify general anesthetics, you should be able to explain the induction and maintenance of anesthesia, so what are these terms, and the drugs used for induction or maintenance. Explain the mechanism of action of general anesthetics, to explain the important pharmacokinetic features of inhalational agents which differ from the traditional pharmacokinetic properties of drugs. Then list the adverse effects of general anesthetics. So these are our learning objectives. So let's continue with the topic. Now, anesthesia is an important procedure which is a prerequisite for a painful, unpleasant medical procedure, including surgeries. Now, before the advent of anesthesia, surgery was performed at high speeds, lightning speeds, and along with that, you needed to restrain the patient with the help of other people or with the help of restraints, and then people started using certain sedatives, including alcohol, opium, cannabis. So these things were used for performing surgeries or other painful procedures over the body. Now this is exemplified over here in this slide. You can see in this photograph an 18th century surgery. So you can see how people are holding the patient, restraining, and the surgeon is performing the surgery. So a very dreadful experience it should be. Then history of development of anesthesia. It actually began with the use of certain agents which were gaseous or vapors, the so-called inhalational anesthetic agents. The main initial agents were like nitrous oxide, ether, chloroform. So nitrous oxide was actually discovered by Sir Humphrey Davy in 1800. So it was originally publicized as a laughing gas. So its anesthetic property was exploited later on. Then ether in 1846 by a dentist, William Morton, and chloroform in 1853 by John Snow. So you can see over here and you can appreciate the difference from the previous photograph. So here William Morton, who was a dentist, is shown to perform a dental procedure with the help of ether. So you can see now the scenario is totally changed. The patient is calmly sitting over the chair and the surgeon is performing the procedure. Now, local anesthesia with cocaine in 1885. Thiopental first used for general anesthesia in 1934. Curare, a skeletal muscle relaxant, first used in 1942. These are various components of general anesthesia. Now, anesthesia, which is the loss of sensation. Another component of the general anesthesia is analgesia, that is loss of the pain sensation. Then amnesia, which is again an important component, that means the loss of the memory of the unpleasant event. And along with that, the fourth component is a good muscle relaxation, which is required for the surgeries. Now, the process of general anesthesia, it involves three things. One is induction of anesthesia. The second step you can say is maintenance of the anesthesia, and third is recovery from the anesthesia. So, recovery is needed at the end of the procedure. So, for induction, which is initiation of the general anesthesia, the required thing is that it should be fast. So ideally induction should be fast, and we need to maintain the general anesthesia for a period of time, for that much time when the procedure is being performed. So continuation of general anesthesia is an essential requirement till the procedure lasts. So for maintenance, the agent should be such that it is easily titratable as well as easily controllable. So for our induction and for maintenance, we need different agents, as we will see later on. Because the properties of different anesthetic agents, it varies. So some are fast acting agents, other are slow acting agents, but they can be easily controlled and titrated. Then recovery should ideally be quick and eventless. So many a times general anesthetic agents, they can produce certain unpleasant experiences during recovery. So ideally it should be free of such unpleasant events. Now about the general anesthetic agents, for a drug to be used as an anesthetic agent, it should produce a rapid induction. It should produce a required level of unconsciousness for procedure to be performed, relief from the pain, rapid recovery, predictable activity. And these are the general anesthetic agents. There are inhalational agents and there are parenteral agents. So the main classification is dependent upon the route of administration. So inhalational agents are either vaporizable liquids or gases, and the parenteral ones, they are those agents which are helpful in the induction, and the main route that is used for with these agents is intravenous route. Now amongst the inhalational agents, nitrous oxide is such agent which is in the gaseous form at room temperature. Others are volatile liquids like halothane, isoflurane, desflurane, enflurane, sevoflurane. Then parenteral agents, there are barbiturates like thiopental, there is benzodiazepine like midazolam, there are opioid agents like fentanyl, and some other compounds like etomidate, propofol, ketamine. Now these agents, etomidate, propofol, ketamine, these are now the preferred agents for induction. Before discovery or synthesis of these agents, barbiturates and amongst them thiobentone was the main inducing agent that was used. Inhalational anesthetic agents, they have got a unique pharmacokinetics, and of course the route of administration is inhalational, delivery of gases or vapors via respiratory system to produce anesthesia. So an ideal inhalational agent, it should be non-flammable, non-explosive, at room temperature, stable in light, liquid but vaporizable at room temperature, stable at room temperature with long shelf life, stable with plastics and metals, environmental friendly so that it does not cause any ozone depletion, cheap and easy to manufacture. Now biologically, an ideal inhalational agent, it should be pleasant to inhale, non-irritant, should be inducing bronchodilation, it should be having low blood gas solubility, that is, it should not be much soluble in the blood. So such agents, they have got a fast onset of action. It should be having a high oil water solubility, so indirectly you can say a lipid soluble agent should it be, and such agents, they have got high potency. Minimal effects on other systems other than the CNS, no biotransformation, should be excreted via the lungs unchanged, that is an ideal requirement, and non-toxic to the operating theatre personnel, OT personnels. Now there are certain specific features of the pharmacokinetics when we talk about the gases. Now induction of anesthesia and recovery from anesthesia, it depends upon the rate of change of partial pressure of the gas in the brain. Now this partial pressure in the brain, it depends upon different factors. So one is the partial pressure that is developed in the lungs. Now that partial pressure that is achieved in the lungs, it again in turn depends upon the administered concentration of the gas. So that actually means what is the percentage of that particular gas in the gaseous mixture that is contained in the lungs. So more is this concentration, more is the percentage, more is the partial pressure in the lungs. Now the second factor is solubility in the blood. So lesser is the solubility, more is the partial pressure. Now this is a dynamic relationship between the gaseous state and the gas in the solution state. Okay, in the gas molecules as gas and molecules that have been dissolved. So there is an equilibrium established over there, and If it is less soluble, more of the free molecules in gaseous state are present and they can traverse the membranes easily. So less is the solubility, more is the partial pressure that is developed in the blood vessels, more is the transition across the membrane. So rapid is the movement, rapid is the partial pressure developed in the brain, and in turn rapid is the induction as well as the recovery. Another factor is solubility in tissue and another one is cerebral blood flow. So all these four factors, the partial pressure in the lungs, solubility in the blood, solubility in tissue, cerebral blood flow, they in turn affect the partial pressure that is developed in the brain. Now, according to these dynamics of the gases, there are different effects that are produced by these inhalational agents. So one such effect is what is known as concentration effect. So what is concentration effect? Now if the concentration of the gas in the lungs is high, now that in turn means the percentage of the gas if it is high in the lungs. So if concentration or percentage is high in the lungs, the rate of increase of gas tension in arterial blood is high. That simply means that more is the concentration, more is the transition across the epithelium of the lungs into the blood vessels. So more is the partial pressure that is achieved in the arterial blood. Now when this volume of gas that is in the lungs is removed from the lungs into the blood, fresh gas is pulled in, which further increases the delivery of gas. Now we need to understand that when we are administering these gases during anesthesia, this is a closed circuit. So that means there is no external influence over the system. So if there is a vacuum created inside the lungs, the anesthetic gases along with oxygen are sucked in from the system. So if a gas is there which is highly concentrated or in high percentage in the lungs, one example is nitrous oxide. So if it is present in the lungs and from there it is quickly removed due to increased pressure, partial pressure developed in the lungs, quickly removed into the arteries, a vacuum sort of thing is created in the lungs, so which sucks in more anesthetic gases. So delivery of gases is increased. Now due to this, the speed of induction is increased as there is faster rate of rise of gas tension in the blood and in turn in the brain. So this effect is known as the concentration effect, and it is exemplified by nitrous oxide. Now a related effect is second gas effect. So what is second gas effect? Suppose we are giving a mixture of anesthetic gases and one of the gases is having a high concentration effect because it is given in high percentage. So it can affect, due to its concentration effect, it can affect the kinetics of a second gas which is being administered along with it. So that is called as second gas effect. So if a second gas is present along with a drug showing high concentration effect, the rate of rise of arterial tension of the second gas is also enhanced. So example is a mixture, a combination of nitrous oxide and halothane. So I want to remind you that nitrous oxide is showing high concentration effect and a rapid induction. On the other hand, halothane is a gas which is showing a slow induction. So if a combination of nitrous oxide and halothane is being administered, so there is concentration effect due to nitrous oxide which pulls more gas from the breathing circuit into the lungs. The rate of rise of arterial tension of halothane also becomes faster along with nitrous oxide. So that is called as second gas effect. The third and again a related effect is diffusional hypoxia. So what is diffusional hypoxia? It actually occurs when we stop administering the inhalational agents. Now I want to tell you that these inhalational agents, they are being continuously administered throughout the procedure and are being titrated according to the depth of anesthesia. Now when we intend to stop the procedure, we stop anesthesia and stop the delivery of inhalational agents. So once the inhalational agents are stopped, the reverse of concentration effect occurs. So that particular drug which is showing high concentration effect, it is quickly diffused from the brain to the blood and from the blood to the lungs. So high rate of transfer of anesthetic from the blood to the alveoli occurs. Now this gas which rapidly returns to the lungs, it dilutes the alveolar oxygen and this can result in postoperative hypoxia. So that is called as diffusional hypoxia. So we can help mitigating this effect by administering supplemental oxygen when we switch off the inhalational agents. So especially when a combination with a high concentration effect is there. So these are few important features of the inhalational agents, the kinetic features of inhalational agents and terms associated with them. Another term that is there when we are using these inhalational agents is MAC. So we need to understand what is MAC, M-A-C. MAC is actually minimum alveolar concentration. So this is a tool to decide the potency of various drugs. So minimum alveolar concentration. So how it is defined? So minimum alveolar concentration of inhalational anesthetic agent is the concentration that prevents movement in response to skin incision in 50% of unpremedicated subjects. So unpremedicated means where pre-medication or pre-anesthetic medication has not been given. So it is the concentration that prevents movement in response to a skin incision in 50% of unpremedicated subjects studied at sea level, that is 1 atmospheric pressure, and in 100% oxygen. So that is the standard definition of minimum alveolar concentration. Now this MAC, it has got inverse relationship with potency. That means more is the MAC, less is the potency. So more is the MAC means more concentration is required to produce immobility. So that means it is less potent inhalational agent. So MAC is inversely proportional to potency. Now why this MAC is used? Because it has got certain features, factors which support the use of this tool are: alveolar concentration can be measured easily. So when equilibrium is established, the alveolar and brain tensions of the gases are almost equal, they are virtually equal. High cerebral blood flow produces rapid equilibration and MAC is invariant with the various noxious stimuli if they are produced. So it remains the same, that means to say. There is no effect of the gender, height, weight on MAC. The doses of different anesthetics in MAC, they are additive. So we can simply add various agents according to the MAC and use these combinations. So if we know the MAC, we know the potency, we can simply add up various agents also because it remains stable, and there are many few factors that can alter the MAC. Now, mechanisms of action of various general anesthetic agents. We have talked about the main kinetic features, the various terms that are there. Now, this is the dynamic part, pharmacodynamics of these gases. So, mechanisms of action. So, one mechanism is the action mediated through GABA, enhanced GABA effect. So, that is on the GABA A receptors in the CNS. So, it is there with the inhaled anesthetic agents like halothane, it is there with barbiturates, it is there with benzodiazepines. So these agents, one of their mechanisms for anesthesia is through GABA. Then second mechanism that is there is inhibition of nicotinic receptor subtypes. So this is mainly causing analgesic effect. So inhaled anesthetics, when given in high concentration, they show this effect, this mechanism. Then another one is through the potassium channels. So certain specific potassium channels known as TRAC channels. So nitrous oxide and ketamine, these are two agents which show this particular mechanism through these specific potassium channels. Then inhibition of NMDA or glutamate receptors, nitrous oxide, ketamine, barbiturates, they show this kind of mechanism. So there are other mechanisms like inhibition of the certain synaptic proteins or enhancing the glycemic effect in the brain. So these are also shown by a variety of anesthetic agents. Regarding the dose-response relationship of general anesthetic agents. So on the x-axis there is dose, on the y-axis there are various central nervous system effects. So you can see as the dose increases, various effects are seen. At first on the lower side of the y-axis you can see sedation, angiolysis. So these are with lesser doses. As the dose increases, there is hypnosis, further increase lead to anesthetic effect, further increase lead to medullary depression. So where voluntary and involuntary processes they start decreasing and are seized, then coma, ultimately coma and death can occur. So you can also see that barbiturates with increasing dose there is no topping off of the effects, whereas benzodiazepine they are showing a plateau near the medullary depression. So that means the dose response relationship it changes with the kind of agent we are using. Now typical kind of stages are produced with different doses which are called as stages of anesthesia, and this is typically so with ether actually, which is an inhalational agent. So these stages are actually described with the use of ether. With the other agents like halothane, enflurane, isoflurane or nitrous oxide, these typical agents are typical stages are actually mixed up. They are not so distinct. So what are these stages? Stage 1, there is analgesia, so that is with the lesser doses. Stage 2, with higher doses, it is excitement. So further increase in the dose leads to stage 3, which is called the typical surgical anesthesia. Actually all the surgeries these are performed in this stage, maintaining the dose of the anesthetic agent at a level which produces stage 3. Then stage 4, we never want to go to stage 4. So we have to minutely monitor the dose so that we keep the surgical anesthetic stage. Now we come to various drugs, the inhalational agents. Nitrous oxide is one such agent. So a few words about nitrous oxide. Anesthetic properties were described by Davy in 1799, characterized by inert nature and with minimal metabolism. It has got a simple linear structure as shown over here. Low potency, MAC is about 105%. That's the major drawback of nitrous oxide. It's a weak anesthetic agent. It's a powerful analgesic though. Needs other agents for surgical anesthesia. It has got low blood solubility and therefore shows quick recovery. So its important advantages are that it is a good analgesic and shows quick recovery. Minimal effects on heart rate, BP, respiration may cause myocardial depression in sick patients who are already having cardiac problems. Then beginning of the case, when the start of anesthesia is there, second gas effect is shown by it. End of the case, it can show diffusion hypoxia. It can also show concentration effect. And it inhibits vitamin B12 metabolism. Then halothane, its structure is shown over here. It's a halogen substituted ethane. It's a volatile liquid which is easily vaporized, stable and non-flammable at room temperature. Most potent inhalational anesthetic agent, MAC is 0.75%. So potency is quite high. Inhibits baroreflex response, depresses myocardium, but sensitizes it to the effects of exogenous catecholamines like adrenaline. So if catecholamines are there administered along with, there could be ventricular arrhythmias. Lowers blood pressure and slows down the conduction in the heart, decreases respiratory drive, shallow breathing is there, and it has got a prolonged recovery which is not a desirable feature. It also shows some rare adverse effects like halothane hepatitis, which is shown by 1 in 10,000 of the persons who are administered halothane. This is immunologically mediated effect. Another one is malignant hypothermia, which is still rarer, 1 in 60,000. So it shows rise in temperature, muscle rigidity, tachycardia, acidosis, hyperkalemia. These are the features, and it is due to excessive sequestration of calcium inside the cells. Treatment is intravenous dantrolene. That is the specific treatment for malignant hypothermia caused by halothane. Enflurane, a stable non-flammable liquid. MAC is 1.68%. Negative inotropic and chronotropic effect decreases vascular resistance, lowers the blood pressure. Cardiac and respiratory effects are similar to halothane. It is actually same with many of the inhalational agents. Metabolism is 1/10 of that of halothane, and therefore it does not release many hepatotoxic metabolites. But there is release of fluoride ion during metabolism, which can cause renal toxicity. Isoflurane, another similar agent, but having an excellent muscle relaxant property. Cardiac and respiratory effects similar to halothane, produces no significant reduction in systemic vascular resistance. That is a typical feature of isoflurane. So significant reduction in the systemic vascular resistance. Another feature is bronchoirritation and laryngospasm. Very little metabolism and therefore lower potential of the organotoxic metabolites like halothane or enflurane. Similar drugs, sevoflurane and desflurane, but these are more safe drugs. Minimal systemic effects are there, mild respiratory and cardiac suppression is there. The negative side is that these are expensive agents. A few words about another inhalational agent, ether. So, which was one of the first inhalational agents to be used. Ether is a non-halogenated volatile agent. So, first anesthetic agent to be used. MAC is 1.92%. It has got certain advantages and certain disadvantages. It is not much used nowadays, except for in a combination with halothane in certain situations. We will be discussing that. So advantages of ether are, it is a cheap agent, stimulates respiration and cardiac output, maintains the blood pressure, causes bronchodilation due to adrenaline release, has powerful analgesic effect and good abdominal relaxation. All these are good features, but there are certain disadvantages as well. It is flammable, so has to be kept has to be stored very cautiously. Slow onset and slow recovery from anesthesia. Bronchial irritation and coughing, that is very negative feature of ether. Increased secretion in the bronchial tree and post-operative nausea and vomiting during recovery. Now, due to this, a combination of halothane and ether is used, which has got certain advantages. So this combination is called as an azeotrope. So what is an azeotrope? It is a mixture of liquids having a constant boiling point. So this is so because the composition of vapor and the mixture is same. That means When the liquid evaporates, both the molecules are together. So the boiling point is constant. So that is not so for the mixtures, other mixtures. So it depends upon the composition of the liquid. So when used in the ratio 2:1, halothane and ether, they form an azeotrope. So it behaves physically as though it was a single compound. Now, what are the advantages of this combination? It has got a better hemodynamic stability, no effect on BP and respiration. Myocardial depression is absent. It is non-flammable, unlike ether. It has got good analgesia and more potent than ether alone. Now that was about the inhalational anesthetic agents. A few words about intravenous anesthetic agents, which are used mainly as inducing agents, used for induction. Inhalational agents, they are mainly used for maintaining the anesthesia. Now intravenous anesthetic agents, thiopentone. So this was the first intravenous agent that was discovered actually. Intravenous agents, they can have properties like muscle relaxation. Certain opioids and non-opioids, they can be used as intravenous agents, like the benzodiazepine, barbiturates, they can be used as intravenous anesthetic agents. They have got a good experience, unlike certain inhalational agents where they can cause irritation, bronchoirritation, secretions, etc. And the one advantage is that their onset of action when given intravenous, they are very fast. So rapid onset is there. That is why they are used as induction agents. So thiopentone, it causes unconsciousness in 15 to 20 seconds, very quick. It is a barbiturate. It is alkaline in nature and unstable. Structure is shown over here. Dose dependent suppression of CNS activity. Period of unconsciousness, it lasts for 5 to 10 minutes. So duration of action is short. No analgesic effect, used mainly for induction. Varied effects on cardiovascular system are there. Mild direct cardiac depression is there. It lowers the blood pressure, and due to that there could be compensatory tachycardia also. Dose dependent depression of respiration through medullary and pontine respiratory centers. Tissue stores, prolonged drowsiness could be there. Now what is tissue stores? Means there is a tendency for accumulation of this agent. So this agent tends to accumulate with higher doses inside the adipose tissue, and from there it is then slowly released. So prolonged effect could be there, prolonged drowsiness could be there. One adverse effect is that it may precipitate the attack of porphyria in the individuals where porphyria is there. Etomidate, another agent used for induction, direct CNS depressant and a GABA agonist, large therapeutic margin, safe drug, rapidly metabolized, little change in cardiac function, mild dose related respiratory depression, A pain at injection site could be there, and which is due to the vehicle in which it is dissolved, that is propylene glycol. Then it can produce nausea and vomiting in about 50% of the individual during recovery. Ketamine. Now ketamine is another inducing agent, interrupts the cerebral association pathways. So that is an important feature, it should be remembered, and due to that it produces a state which is called a dissociative anesthesia. So dissociative anesthesia means the person is detached from the surroundings. There is profound analgesia and the person is detached from the surroundings. That is called as dissociative anesthesia. So ketamine alone can be used for minor procedures to produce dissociative anesthesia. Then it stimulates central sympathetic pathways and therefore can cause hypertension, rise in the blood pressure, increased heart rates, increased cardiac output. Maintains the laryngeal reflexes, that is one positive effect, and maintains the skeletal muscle tone. Emergence can produce hallucination. Emergence means during recovery phase there could be hallucinations and unpleasant dreams in about 50% of the individuals. Propofol is another agent. Now this agent, it shows a rapid onset but short duration of action. So it has become now a preferred agent for induction. Barrow reflex is not suppressed. There is minimal nausea and vomiting. Myocardial depression and peripheral vasodilatation may occur, but is not that profound. Then one other negative effect is that injection could be painful. So with that, dear students, we conclude this lecture. Thank you so much.